Welcome to episode 1, season 1 of Wrestling is Fiction. You are the first to come aboard with us on this journey to Wrestlemania 41. I'm Zach Hannigan with my partner, Darkstar Shady. Let's go.
What's up, everyone? I'm Darkstar Shady, also known as Stephan. That's probably what Zach will be calling me through the podcast. Before we start our show, just wanted to go through a couple of our sponsors. Wrestling is Fiction is officially sponsored by Gengar's TCG shop on TikTok. He sells Pokemon cards by the pack and by the box. Other than that, I also have a partnership with a company called Dubby. They do energy gaming drinks. Dubby.gg with code Darkstar10 will get you 10% off your next order. If you go to our website, darkstarshady.com/wrestlingisfiction, you can go from that to our links for sponsors to see all the websites sponsoring us.
All right, everyone. Welcome again. Zach here. Wrestling is Fiction kind of came about in a stream of thought text message chain between Darkstar Shady and I. Stephen and I would text each other, did you watch Raw? Did you watch SmackDown? What do you think about this? We would look at call each other after PLEs. I think the first one was probably a drunken phone call by me or him. But that's how it came about. And we've known each other a long time and kind of recently both rediscovered our love for wrestling. We started in journalism school together back in Sacramento, California, and always kind of felt like there was, I guess, unfinished business. I don't know about Stephen, but there was something creatively that we should have been doing that we kind of lost our way in life. But yeah, Stephen, wrestling. I don't think we ever talked about it in college, so I don't know if you watched it then. Is it something that you picked up as a kid, or is it an adult thing?
I started off as a kid. I think the first episode I saw was like early 2000s. It was right after Chris Jericho won the Undisputed titles, where he was walking around with both the WWE and the World Heavyweight titles. We were flipping channels, me and my cousin. Before then, we had never been allowed to watch wrestling. Like, my family was like, no, it's awful, you're not allowed to watch it. And we were flipping channels one night, and Chris Jericho came out, and my family was like, it's probably fine if you watch this. And that lasted about as long as it took them to realize that we were staying up past our bedtimes to watch it every week. I watched it for years after that. Like, it was to the point where my grandpa would actually, at his house, record the episodes on VHS tapes and give them to us so we weren't staying up late every night watching it. And suddenly my grandpa was like, oh, this is a good one. You're going to see these guys go at it this time. And I watched it for years, but then by the time I got to college, I kind of just fell off of it. I'd watch the occasional big event, and then after college, I'd watch Royal Rumble here and there, WrestleMania here and there. But I started fully watching again when Cody came back at the Royal Rumble in 2023.
Yeah, that was probably pretty close to when I picked it back up. I had the same experience as you. I remember my dad putting it on one day. We lived in this little apartment with him and my sister at the time, right next to my high school, actually. And I want to say I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and same kind of thing. Didn't really want me watching it, but it was Dad. Dad let a little more go on TV, so I watched it, and same kind of thing. I remember him starting to record it on VHS because then SmackDown was on Thursdays,
Yeah.
and I think it started around 8 or 9 o'clock. And I want to say my bedtime was probably about 9 p.m. then. So I'd watch the first little bit and then go to bed and kind of can't wait to watch it, try to get it in the next morning before school.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right timing-wise. And more often than not, I'd probably fake sleeping and actually watch the whole episode even before I got the tape.
Yeah, and I think then Raw was on cable, and we were an anti-cable household, meaning my dad was cheap and didn't want to pay for it. But life of a single parent. So I would have to catch the Raw highlights on that SmackDown. But yeah, same kind of thing. I kind of fell off. Well, I kind of fell off watching it in high school when your favorites start to kind of go. Your Hardy Boys, your Edge and Christian, kind of in and out. Stone Cold Steve Austin, always one of my favorite. Kane, probably my all-time favorite wrestler. He's not really around anymore, so it was kind of hard to watch. You had your Cenas and your Ortons, and then I joined the military, so it's really hard to even keep a tight schedule and watch it then. But yeah, I'd say just about over a year ago, probably right after WrestleMania when Cody Rhodes came back, I picked it up again. Um, I have a son now, and it was kind of fond memories watching that with my dad. So he watched it as a kid, and I kind of like to pass it down the line, see if he's into it, and just sort of have it on. Although them moving to Netflix, we'll see how PG it is. Because I know we grew up probably in the Attitude Era when they'd say whatever the hell they want on air, which they don't so much anymore. But Drew McIntyre seems to already be ready for Netflix with some of the stuff he says.
Yeah, and The Rock is coming in with just breaking every rule there is too. Like
Yeah.
supposedly they're giving the promos to the networks ahead of time to censor him, but he's taken it farther than they've gone in decades, probably.
Hey, final boss, man. He's on the board. He knows. I think they're kind of calling out, what are you going to do? We're on our way out. So,
Yeah, and
uh,
he literally is their boss. So what are they going to tell him? No, you can't say that, and you can't bring your own title to WrestleMania with you. Like,
yeah, it had to be that way. And Muhammad Ali gave it to him. So, or Muhammad
yeah,
Ali's wife. So, how are you going to tell him no on that?
yeah, I don't really think you can. Like, and it was good. Like when The Rock first came back and they decided to give him the main event at WrestleMania, I was completely against it.
I think that
Like if
might have been one of our few first Rage Fest. I think we were both against it. I was like, you're going to have Cody win it 2 years in a row, and then you're going to take it from him. Like, I don't want to see Cody Seth. It's like two baby faces. It's like Roman has been the ultimate heel, and it has to be him to finish the story. And anyway, speaking of WrestleMania 40, what you think?
night one was good. It wasn't great. I think it started off strong, ended strong, but Jimmy and Jay in the middle of the show just absolutely killed it for me. Like I was
Yeah,
so
I
excited
heard.
for their match.
I heard that. I'm surprised sports books didn't have an over under on super kicks because I think it was probably about 10. If that was a drinking game, you'd be hammered by the end of that match.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I really wanted that match to be good too because they could have built a great storyline, but they just didn't really do anything with it. And the moment in night two where Jay spears Jimmy off the ramp was better than their whole match was.
yeah, and that's kind of how the rivalry's been. It's like, you know, Jimmy doing these hit and run attacks and Jay having to be the face and not retaliating. I kind of wish they put a stipulation on it, maybe even a steel cage just to show like Jimmy can't run now. Um, or,
Steel cage or
no
no
holds
disqualification.
bar.
Just give them
Yeah.
anything, like anything other than just a generic match.
Well, exactly,
Especially,
because their packages are kind of the same.
yeah, and they're gonna pivot Jimmy almost immediately now. He's already getting kicked out of the bloodline almost.
Well, yeah, if he has a neck anymore, who knows? Yeah, night one, I didn't mind. I thought Rhea's intro was really cool with Motionless and White out there. Uh, I saw somebody say Chris Motionless looks more Rhea Ripley than Rhea Ripley does, and I can't unsee it now when I
No,
watched it back. So
that's fair. They are very similar.
yeah,
When we were watching it, I was actually at work watching on my phone. Don't tell my boss right now. But he came out, and I was like, "Why is Rhea Ripley singing the intro for Rhea Ripley to come out to right now?"
yeah, and I thought it was a good way for Becky to take a break too. She's really been just giving it her all forever, and then same with Seth. They're a family now, and they have their daughter, so it's probably about time for them to have a break. And Seth really by the end of night two looked like he had nothing left to give. Whether he
Yeah,
was acting or not, I'm sure his body was feeling it either way.
yeah, he's been needing a break for literally months
Yeah.
now. he was carrying the World Heavyweight Championship and giving it any meaning at all. I
Yeah,
don't know
I
if
mean,
Becky's actually getting her break though. Like she's coming back for a big event again. She may have to take the title after Rhea gave it up.
yeah, that's interesting what they're going to do. And then you have Nia Jax kind of sitting there. I think she probably deserves a shot. She made the point. She's beaten all of them, obviously, other than Rhea, but she's had her moments against her.
Yeah, and she's been doing a lot better this run than I've seen from her. I was a little wary on her coming back, but the longer she's been back, the better it's seemed from her, the
Yeah,
better her wrestling has been. She seems safer. You can see where she's protecting people in certain moments, and no one seems to have a problem working with her now.
yeah, and the women's division is kind of just tough right now. Like I kind of like what they're doing with Liv, but you know, against somebody like Nia Jax, it's just hard to see someone of Liv's stature
Yeah,
putting
I
up
don't.
much of a fight.
If they're gonna give Nia a title, they're gonna have to move Jade or Bianca to the same
Yeah,
brand to
it's
take it off of her.
probably going to have to be Rhea coming back who does it. So, all right,
Yeah,
main event: Rock, Roman, Seth, Cody. I actually love the tag match when they separated and Rock and Seth went into the stands, and then you have Roman and Cody finally facing off with each other on stage there. I thought it was a great match. Maybe a little long. I know it's the main event of WrestleMania, but it went on forever.
it went a lot longer than I thought it would, considering The Rock hasn't wrestled in so long. But it went the way I thought it would. I knew that Roman and The Rock were going to beat
Yeah,
Cody and Seth.
it had to be bloodline rules. It had to be against Cody for him to really finish his
Yeah,
story.
they had to up the stakes, but The
Yeah,
Rock looked way better in the ring than I thought he would.
yeah, I was
Him and
impressed too.
him and Cody were killing it out there. Roman was doing great with Seth. I liked seeing all of them
Yeah,
wrestle together, and that
yeah,
just
and
leads us
then
into night two.
exactly, and you kind of had the feeling Cody was probably going to take it. Especially, it was weird to me that Roman did that A&E interview a couple nights before, where he said, "If I'm not on top, I don't know that I want to be around." So it was kind of writing on the wall. But
Yeah,
over 3 years, it was time.
yeah,
He,
he needs his break.
yeah.
I mean, he's had breaks, but he needs an actual break where people aren't waiting on him specifically, and the pressure isn't on him to show up and defend his title.
Well, I mean, not everyone is also battling cancer, so
Yeah, no, yeah,
it's
he's gone through a lot, but he's also done a lot for WWE. He carried them through the pandemic era. He carried them through multiple WrestleManias. He feuded with as many big names as he could and made a few big names out of himself.
yeah, and I'm
But
I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the bloodline because it seems like Paul Heyman seemed to have no idea what Solo was up to, and saying this isn't what Roman wanted. And when he tried to call him, Solo squishes the phone in the middle of the
mhm.
ring. I'm interested to see the arc they're going if they're going to go off kind of on their own. At this point, it seems like it's going to be a tag team because it seems that Jimmy's out. And I'm hoping they don't do a Jay and Jimmy reunited for a tag team run. I really think Jay deserves a solo title run at least, but I don't think they know what to do with Jimmy now. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if they did like a whole Bloodline Civil War arc again where Jay and Jimmy are on the same side, but not as
yeah.
tag champions.
Yeah, I mean, they really have the opportunity to set it up for a War Games type thing
Yeah,
um, where,
but I don't want tag champions again out of them.
no.
Jay needs to go for Intercontinental. He needs the World Heavyweight. Something to make him seem like you guys have to come to me now if you need help. I'm more important on my own than I was with you.
Yeah, even U.S. title, and who knows where they end up with the draft coming up here. It's going to
Yeah,
be interesting.
they could split all of them up again. They could have them all on one show. It'd be kind of interesting to see if Jimmy and Jay have to interact weekly on Raw or SmackDown again after a year of kind of just attacking each other and the one face off when Jay and Cody had the tag titles.
Yeah, that feels like a distant memory. I almost forgot they did.
It lives in my mind forever because
Weird
of that
run
press
there.
conference.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I I think I quote that press conference almost daily. Just either just "Do you feel him, sir?"
Yeah.
Or just randomly barking like Cody was doing.
I my favorite moment was when Cody's like, "We've had a couple libations." Like, yeah, we can tell. You did need to tell us.
Did you see his interview recently where he said that no one told them they were going on a press conference?
I'm not surprised because Cody doesn't
Um,
seem the guy to drink before something like that, or that
no,
heavily at least.
he said that because their match was so early, usually someone would come tell them, "Hey, you have to be prepared for a press conference at the end of the night." No one told him, and he was like, "Well, our truck is sponsored by Wheatley Vodka. Of course, we were in there drinking." And he's like, "I'm not throwing anyone under the bus." Names like three producers' names, and then he's like, "Not throwing them under the bus, but I didn't know we were doing this afterwards, but I thought we did great." But
Hey,
that was a good press conference, one of the best I've seen.
yeah, I think they should let him drink more and make him more interesting. It's kind of like, during mid-pandemic when they did the New Year's Rockin' Eve show and they let Anderson Cooper get drunk as hell on
Oh,
air. And
yeah.
then who was it? Was it Andy Cohen?
Yeah, they were
Last
drunk
famous who's
and
ever done cocaine live on air.
yeah, they were just doing whatever they wanted, and suddenly the
Nobody
network was like,
cared.
"Okay,
Nobody,
next year, no
nobody,
drinking, guys."
nobody in the world cared. And then this year, or this last year, they were back to drinking again, taking
Yeah,
shots. And
yeah, which
Anderson
they should
Cooper's
be.
face after every shot just gets better and better. Yeah, they should be. They should be letting them drink. It makes the show more interesting.
Like they're literally just standing around in a crowd waiting for a clock to tick. Like, let them
And it's
drink, let them get
cold
drunk and
out.
have fun.
Yeah.
Let them have fun.
Also, I think the issue probably was their producers were partaking, especially during
Yeah,
the pandemic. There's no one in Times Square. Whatever.
right. Do whatever you want. Oh, I lost where we even were. Oh, main event. So then that leads us up to Cody actually beat Roman.
Yeah. I like how they made Roman go out. It had to be a way where it took three legends to really take him out after over 3 year title reign. I think they did right by him. It took three crossroads. Well, I guess almost six by the time Cody was
Yeah,
had the match over.
and not even just the crossroads. It took Seth being there. Didn't
Exactly.
even have to
Seth,
hit him with anything. He just gave him those PTSD flashbacks to him getting hit in the back with a chair.
yeah, and Seth knew what he's. If you believe in his visionary arc, then he kind of had to know that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
But watching Seth walked out looked painful, man. It's like he didn't even want to climb back in the ring and celebrate with
No.
everybody.
Everyone was kind of just like leaning down to him, like reaching their
Yeah.
hands out. And he's like, "I'm not moving from down here. I've gone through so much." Like, even The Rock after WrestleMania did some interviews where he was like, "You know what? Seth was the MVP. Seth held it all together for us. He was what we needed."
Yeah, I mean, really pushed himself those last few months because how recovered was he really from the knee injury? Because the way he was walking, it looked like he might have hurt it again, but who knows?
The
Um,
knee injury, his back that may or may not actually need some kind of surgery that they just have him
I'm
win
sure his
through
back
anyways.
hurts. I would assume that with every wrestler.
That's a fair assumption, honestly. But
Yeah,
I think he, like, if Becky does come back, I wouldn't mind it, but Seth needs his break.
yeah, he
Seth needs
definitely
a few months
he's
at least.
a Royal Rumble candidate for coming back or a Survivor Series SummerSlam type
Yeah.
guy where you're surprised he comes back. Even War Games would be a cool opportunity, like they did with Randy and CM Punk, to bring him back.
Speaking of the main event, though, and the legends, when that Shield music hit, did you have a second where it took so long for Seth to appear where you're like, is it Dean Ambrose coming back
Yeah,
Monday?
I don't know where Seth came from. I guess he limped down some walkway and went over the barricade or from under the ring, which is, I guess, where Undertaker was hiding for half an hour before he came out. Uh,
Patience.
but yeah, no, I fully was like, is the whole Shield about to come out? Sans Roman? I thought it would
Yeah,
have been cool. I mean, that's almost what it takes to beat Roman at that point. So
I think even just the delay, though, where it gives the hesitation where it could have been him, kind of built the moment
I don't
bigger,
know if they
even.
did it on purpose. I think
I don't
Seth
think
was
they
just
did.
slow.
And then the Undertaker getting that last spot, like,
uh,
very obviously should have been Stone Cold Steve Austin.
the gong hit.
Everyone, Everyone was expecting the glass shattering.
Yeah.
I honestly kind of like that it was Undertaker though, just because it was the bigger surprise. No one was
Well,
rumored
it
to have
also
see that.
makes sense with his history with the Rock's family, just
Hmm.
in WWE lore. But yeah, Stone the glass break would have been awesome too. But I think they wanted the surprise attack on the Rock. So
Yeah, no, it definitely worked because the entire stadium just like went wild when that gong hit.
yeah,
I was sitting in my, or not even sitting, I was standing in the kitchen cooking dinner through the main event, and the gong hit, and I'm pretty sure I actually yelled out loud. And then Maggie and Liz were sitting on the couch, and they were like, "Oh my god, the Undertaker!"
like they have any idea? They're just like
Like,
this guy must be cool.
yeah, like
No, I was on a plane from Sacramento back home to North Carolina most of the Monday after WrestleMania, so I was able to watch some of it and come home and finish it. Day
yeah,
two, I missed all of.
I watched like the first hour or so of each show on my phone at work, and then came home, watched the rest of the show on TV, then went back and rewatched the first hour of each one to fill in all the gaps I missed in between just like peeking at my phone. But
Era.
overall, like one of the better WrestleManias I've seen.
Well, it's my first one in some years, so I really liked it, and perfect way to have Cody win the title and sort of on screen usher in the new era with Triple
Yeah.
H taking over of WWE.
Yeah, and it's been some time since I've seen such a celebration that they aired the whole thing for like that.
Yeah,
And it was cool seeing everyone come out, seeing everyone just kind of give Cody his moment that he's been waiting for his whole life literally. And they
exactly.
all like Randy Orton looked like a proud father out there.
Yeah, I know he was kind of random. I was like, what's Randy doing out here?
I
I
mean,
don't even think he got in the ring for a while. He kind of
he
just stood
he just
outside
showed up.
and stared in.
But they go back to Cody's debut in WWE, and
Yeah,
Randy's just kind of watched him this whole time, and he literally looks like the proud father that can't wait to RKO him in a few months.
well, surprised he didn't RKO everyone in that ring.
Yeah, no, which was one of the better parts of his triple threat with Logan and Kevin Owens when him and Kevin were like, "You want to keep beating up Logan together?" And then he goes to hit the RKO, and Kevin's like, "Man, come on, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
he knew. He knew.
Like, like, like now I have to fight you two. You could
I
have
think
waited like
it's
10 more minutes."
evident if you've been in WWE for any time, you don't trust Randy Orton.
No, not at all. Like you can't, even if you want to, because even if he doesn't want to, he will turn on you.
Yeah, and there's always seems to be no rhyme or reason half the time. He's just like, it'd be pretty cool if I RKO'd somebody right here, and then he gets his spot.
But that's what makes him so fun to watch. Like I would, like we said earlier, like Raw was on cable when we were kids. I was so upset because when I watched wrestling for years, we didn't have cable, and Randy Orton was on Raw, and
Yeah,
like I would catch the little bit of highlights on SmackDown, and there was used to be like a Saturday night show that came on at like 11 p.m.
yeah.
that would play a few of the highlights as well, and that's the only way I watched Raw was catching up that way. So for years, I was like, man, I wish I could watch this Evolution storyline. Man, Randy Orton seems so cool. Why does YouTube only have like 30-second videos right now?
He's still so cool.
He is. And he
Yeah,
looks better than he has his
I
whole
know.
run. He came back jacked.
It's like him and AJ and those guys coming back are definitely been in the lab.
Yeah. It I don't even know what to say. Like they're getting older. They're probably all nearing the end of their careers, but they're wrestling the same way they did 10 years ago. AJ still got it even though he's considering retiring soon. He says his body hurts, but in the ring with LA Knight, he's doing his best work right now.
Well, yeah, I think ideally he'd get one more title run and then call it a career. But I mean, AJ Styles has been doing it forever,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially.
WWE took their time getting him, but he's been doing it there for years now
Yeah,
too.
I remember first seeing him in TNA when that was sort of the up and comer that was supposed to take down WWE, and he
Hmm.
was short hair AJ Styles then, which
Yeah.
I kind of still like better than his long hair. But I'm
So do
not
I.
going to tell him what to do. Uh, And I was like, man, this guy would be great. And probably WWF then. I don't even remember when they changed the name. I remember them doing it, but I don't know what year.
I don't either, and it's funny that there's still slip ups on air of people saying WWF every now and then.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, but I actually accidentally watched the Royal Rumble that AJ Styles debuted at. I
accidentally.
hadn't watched wrestling in like a year probably, and I just knew it was the Royal Rumble night, so I found a stream online, was watching it living in Phoenix, and one of my friends messaged me, and she's like, "Hey, did you know that AJ Styles is debuting?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you didn't know?" I'm like, "No, I haven't watched wrestling in so long." And then his big pop at the Royal Rumble that he wasn't sure he was going to get. That was a cool moment to see him come back for that.
Speaking of Royal Rumble, just my favorite PLE, one of the best. You always get a surprise. It's a great show to start watching wrestling from again. You'll get to
Yeah.
see some of your old faces that you know and new guys. And
Yeah. That's how I got my wife and our friend both into wrestling, was year after year watching the Royal Rumble with them. Uh, and year after year it was the women's Royal Rumble because they seemed like they did a little more in their match than the men did. Jey Uso got the Iron Man title at this previous Royal Rumble, and he sat against a turnbuckle most of it.
hey, I always said if I was in the Royal Rumble, my strategy would be to go under the bottom rope and wait it
Uh,
out too.
I mean, that's fine. I'm pretty sure that's what Becky did last year for a bit.
Yeah.
She disappeared from the ring.
Or I might Pat McAfee it and walk
Just
in and immediately walk out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I would probably walk up to any of them and just be like, "Excuse me," and then just go flying over the top rope.
Yeah. Well.
Just throw myself.
All right. Speaking of a new era, the point of the show isn't for you guys to hear us talk about our wrestling memories and all that, although we wanted to give you an intro to ourselves. We are Wrestling is Fiction. And we're not saying it's fake. Before anyone gets upset, we know it's not fake. We love it. It's scripted. It is by no means fake. Those human beings are putting their bodies on the line. However, after those rage filled texts and phone calls, we thought to ourselves, a cool idea for a podcast would be fan fiction. And then it sort of morphed into this idea of what if Steven and I take over a show, Raw or SmackDown, and do a draft ourselves, just like they're getting ready to do in WWE. So we are actually going to do our own version of the draft and then be the general manager of whichever show we get. We're going to flip a coin, so we don't know that yet. We're just going to preview some rules for you all to sort of hype you up for next week's draft. Steven, early thoughts?
Just on the whole show, or the rules, or just everything?
The draft. What
The
do you got?
draft. So we're gonna kind of just riff off of what they do on TV. Just one of us takes a show, the other one takes the other. But we want to just kind of mix up everything. That's why our episode's coming out before the draft. We don't want you to like see our drafts and say, "Oh, they wanted to be different," or "They wanted to be the same" for ratings, basically. But we're gonna just take our superstars that we particularly like and basically play GM mode from one of the video games. We're gonna go through it. We're gonna take our people, keep their championships as is, and just mix it all up and see where we end up in the next year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we both like a lot of the same people.
We
So
do.
there's going to
So
be some probably reaches early that you guys aren't going to be happy about. There's a
yeah,
couple guys in particular that I know I'm going to have to take early, and a couple women as well. Um, and I'm
that's the
sure
biggest thing. I know I'm going to be trying to fight you for these people.
Steven is thinking the same thing. So without further ado, let's go over the rules here to hype this draft up for you. So you know that we're not cheating when we get there. These are set rules. So, like I said, we're flipping a coin for the show. That'll kind of be ad lib on the show next week. Heads or tails for Raw. SmackDown's going to draft first this year, being that Raw drafted first the last year. Or am I mixing that up?
I think it's mixing it up because SmackDown
Okay.
got Bloodline last year.
Yeah. And
So
then
yeah, Raw
Cody.
will go first.
Gotcha. Raw is going first. So you see, I'm already mixing up the rules. This is why we're going over them. Raw's going first. We are keeping the same champions that we currently have. And along those lines, we're going to go champ for champ. So, for instance, if Stephan takes Cody Rhodes, I then, on my next pick, need to take Damian Priest. So we're doing equal titles. That way, shows have them split just like they do now, and there's not one show that's championship heavy.
Yeah, we did decide we have to take the champion next pick, even though you're basically getting them by default. So we can't just reach for those picks that we want and let the other champ fall down to the last pick, basically.
Yeah, and knowing that the other person's not allowed to take a premium superstar. All right, factions stay together. So if you're going to say, I want to draft Otis, you're going to get the whole Alpha Academy. Same as tag teams. If you're drafting one of the Creeds, you're drafting both Creed brothers.
Now, I have a question there.
Yeah.
So, can we draft a tag team without the whole faction? Like, do the Creed brothers come with Ivy Nile?
I would say so. They seem
Okay.
to be one faction. I mean, I think that's a case by case basis.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I would say Ivy Nile comes with him, although she seems to be a solo competitor now. She's a weird one. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
argue over her on next week's show.
I want to argue over the title for a second.
Okay.
If I take Cody, you get the whole Judgment Day.
Well, yeah. How high were you
Because
going to take Dom and Finn, though?
probably pretty high, honestly.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because the only reason I say that is because last year for the actual draft, Rhea was drafted separately from the rest of Judgment Day.
Okay. Well, then we can do it that way.
Like, do you want to do?
I'll get just Damian Priest.
Like, do you want to do? Like, you might get Cody. Who knows?
Or you just get Damian Priest.
Yeah, but I don't know if you want to break up the champion from their faction so that you don't automatically get that if someone takes a title.
Yeah.
Aside from tag team champs, actually.
That's confusing. We're not scripted like WWE and make it easy on ourselves.
No, not at all.
You know
We
what?
are flying by the seat of our pants right
Why
now.
don't we just draft like we said we are going to? And if factions get split up because of championships, then they get split up. And we can write our own stories on that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'd say the biggest thing is we do have to keep the tag titles together.
Yes.
And do we want to leave the women's tag team out for a bit just as free agents? Or do you want to just ping pong them?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that can kind of be what we decide to do on our shows. Obviously,
Yeah.
we'll talk to each other before it happens. But
We don't ever talk to each other. What are you talking about?
all right, moving on. Now that the rules are extra confusing, 30-person roster. No, we're not doing 30-person roster anymore. We 86 that in a late text message last night.
Yeah, so 25 picks.
25 picks total.
Including tag team / factions.
Yes.
So we may end up with more than 25 people.
Exactly, which we should if we're drafting smart.
Yes, hopefully.
All right. Rule number 7. It's a lot of rules. We're allowed to take 3 NXT superstars, woman or man, and 1 tag team from NXT. And if you take a champion, that champion carries their title into Raw or SmackDown. Now the fun ones. Rule number 8. Each of us, after our 25 picks, are going to take 3 legends to bring up whenever we want. So let's say we want a surprise Stone Cold Steve Austin drop on a random show in Ohio, then we can decide that. We'll get 3 legends. And then another late night text message last night, I came up with this idea. When we get to WrestleMania 41, which will be our final show for this season, we get 2 celebrity spots. Now, we're not going to announce those on air. Those are going to be total surprises when we get to WrestleMania. The only people who will know is Stephan and I, so we don't take the same celebrity, which there are thousands to choose from, so I don't think we will.
I'm not going to lie to you. That text message was so late, I forgot that rule, and it wasn't written in my notes at all.
That's why we're both here.
Yeah, no, we needed this because I would have forgotten that. We would have gotten to WrestleMania. You would have pulled out Steve-O and like
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks, and I would have been like, "Who?
Yeah.
Why?"
Sydney Sweeney, probably.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I'm kind of leaning Vanessa Hudgens, honestly, but
Oh,
probably not.
nice.
Just
Zac
someone really off the
Efron wouldn't
wall.
be a bad one.
No, after Iron Claw.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would be good.
Surprised we didn't see one of them at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for the long shot MJF appearance, honestly.
Yeah, I was holding out hope for that in Royal Rumble,
Hmm. Yeah,
WrestleMania. Yeah, we'll
Raw
see.
after WrestleMania.
Yeah, we'll see if we get an MJF
Yeah, last I heard,
sighting.
he still hasn't shown up around any AEW stuff at all. And his one tweet for the year was about The Rock. Like he hadn't tweeted all year, then he tweeted about The Rock buying that painting of Cody from MJF's ex.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, no, I can see him coming to WWE one day. I don't know if it's coming as soon as we want him to, but especially if they're moving into Netflix and they may move a little bit away from that PG era, MJF would be right at home in WWE with
Oh,
a
he'd
lot of
be
the people there.
perfect.
Give him another Cody feud, give him a little bit of everyone in WWE. He would grow quick there.
He would. He's kind of that tweener. He's a heel that you like, which is a
Yeah.
hard role to play for most.
Yeah, it's him and Rhea right now.
Yeah.
But
All
I think
right.
that about wraps it up for this episode. We went through our intros, we went through some rules. You guys are excited to listen to our draft next week. So if you're listening to this live as we do them, not live, but as they drop, you'll be hearing this 2 weeks before the draft. Our draft will come about a day or two before the draft actually airs on SmackDown and Raw, so our picks will be locked in before theirs. If you guys are a month from now, a year from now, going back to listen to these episodes, you can just see week by week how different we were or how similarly we ended up on this new era here.
Yeah, and I guess we should say we record on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So
Recording
hopefully
on
earlier
Wednesdays.
than we're recording now, so you can actually get it on Wednesday. But
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, look out for those podcasts
In an
dropping.
ideal world, I'd probably be publishing these little late Wednesday night so they'd either air like go live Wednesday night or early Thursday morning so people can listen to them on their commutes or on their way to work.
There you go. You heard the man.
That's
Any
just
any
hopeful.
final word or thoughts, words of encouragement for me being a new GM?
Honestly, good luck. You're going to need it. I've played a lot of GM mode in WWE 2K23 and
Boy.
24. I'm
Yeah,
not saying I'm
well,
good at it, but I played a lot of it.
that's true, but you're also drafting against the computer.
Yeah, no, and I honestly don't do as well as I should on those modes. I think, are we just going to throw it out there? Is Cody going to be the number one pick in our draft?
They'll have to come back next week to find out.
Yeah. So listen up next week. Head over to darkstarshady.com/wrestlingisfiction if you want to see our about page that'll be coming up over the next day. We'll have a link to the Spotify if you haven't found us there. We'll have links to Apple Music and other places later. Sponsors are listed there, and we'll see you next week.
Talk to you guys next week.